Ladies and gentlemen, in today's video, I'm going to walk through one of the fundamental try hack me rooms that talks about offensive side of phishing. What does it mean? In this video, you're going to learn how to set up your own phishing infrastructure and how can you craft a convincing email to trick your targets and what are all the tools that may aid you while conducting the phishing campaigns. So it's going to be a learning session, good learning session. Before beginning, a disclaimer part: don't try this, don't use this knowledge against someone offensively without their permission, and always try to get their explicit permission before trying this. And many organizations and the third parties do use these tools that we are going to discuss to conduct the phishing campaign against their clients. So it's going to be a great learning session. Without wasting a time, let's begin. And here we are. We are on the phishing room and learn what is phishing and is why it is important to red team engagement. You will set up a phishing infrastructure, write a convincing phishing email, and try to trick your target into opening your email in real world simulation. So it's going to be an interesting session. Stay tuned. And let's see the first task. Just a brief introduction. Let's move on to the topic: intro into the phishing attacks. Before you learn what is phishing, you will learn to understand the term social engineering. Social engineering is the psychological manipulation of people into performing of or divulging information by exploiting weaknesses in human nature. These weaknesses can be curiosity, jealousy, greed, and even kindness, the willingness to help someone. So, the social engineering is all about playing with the human emotions. Phishing is a source of social engineering delivered through email to trick someone into either revealing personal information, credentials, or even executing some malicious, unwanted code on their system. These emails will usually appear to come from a trusted source, whether that's a person or business. They include content that tries to attempt or trick people into downloading software, opening attachments, or following links to a bogus or some nefarious website. We have already seen in our phishing series. Uh, they used to impersonate the legitimate website or legitimate brand to trick their targets. So that is one of their methods to lure the victims. And a term you will come across and the type of phishing campaign a red team would participate in spear phishing. Spear phishing is one of the branches of phishing. When the threat actor focuses on a specific organization or an individual, then it is called spear phishing. As with throwing a physical spear, you would have a target to aim at. The same can be said with spear phishing in that you are targeting an individual business or organization. The same I said. This is an effective form of phishing for a red team engagement as they are bespoke to the target. It makes them hard to detect the technology such as spam filters, antivirus, and firewalls. So when threat actors perform spear phishing, the email message, the subject, everything will be related to the victim. So there are more chances to lure the victims successfully. A red team could be contracted solely to carry out phishing assessment to see whether the business is vulnerable to this type of attack, or can also be a part of broader scale assessment and used to gain access to computer systems and services. So what they are trying to say, actually, some firms used to recruit or contract the phishing assessment red teamers to perform the phishing campaign against their employees, their resources, to check their social engineering vulnerability. So that's what they are trying to say. And some other methods of phishing through other mediums are smishing. If the phishing is through SMS instead of email, then it is phishing. Then it is smishing, pardon me. And wishing, which is performed through phone calls. Only the medium is different. So here is the example scenario. The example scenario is very interesting. Just try to read that. Uh, the below example scenario shows how an employee of a company could be tricked into revealing their credentials. So this is just one of the techniques that target attacker may use. The attacker locates the physical location of the target business, and the attacker then looks for nearby food suppliers and discovers a company called Ultimate Cookies. Just they are giving, just assume it in your way. It can be anything. Um, The attacker registers the domain name, the same name related to that nearby company, and the attacker then crafts an email to their target, which is a little bit relative, tempting them with an offer of receiving some free cookies if they sign up to the website because the victim has heard of this local company and they are more likely to trust it. And the victim then follows the link to the email, then a fake website, and they are finally falling into the trap of attacker. The attacker now has the victim's email address, password, and can log on to victim's company email account. The attacker could now have access to private company information and also somewhere to launch another phishing attack against other employees. And here they gave some example screenshot which clearly talks about the same. And next you will learn what goes in setting up infrastructure for red team phishing campaign. So what type of psychological manipulation is the phishing part of? Social engineering, I suppose. Let me verify. That's the right answer. What type of phishing campaign do red teams get involved in? What would be the answer? Peer phishing. Peer phishing is all about targeting a specific company or an individual. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Writing convincing phishing emails. So, writing phishing email is an art. If you are a red teamer, then you must know how to trick the user. How can you trick the user uh, by by writing a convincing email? So let's try to understand that. We have three things to work regarding the phishing emails: the sender email address, subject, and the content. So you need to make sure all these three entities um, to create some trust between your target and you. So let's see the sender address. Ideally, the sender address would be from a domain name that spoofs significant brand. A known contact or coworker, see the choosing a phishing domain task below for the more information. Okay. To find what brands or people a victim interacts with, you can employ OSINT, open source intelligence, using some third party social networking or some open source uh, resources to detect the information about your target. And observe their social media account for any brands or friends they talk to. Searching Google for victim's name and rough location for any views the victims may left about local businesses and brands. Looking at victims' business websites. So these are all some of the techniques to collect the kind of information about your victim. And the next thing is subject. So you should set the subject, which is something creating a sort of urgency or just triggering the user, triggering the recipient to take an immediate action, like playing with their emotion, creating some urgency or some worrying, piques the victim's curiosity. So these are all some of the techniques. These are all some of the emotions that you can trigger uh, to make them to take the immediate action. So here they gave some of the example subject lines. Your account has been compromised, your package has been dispatched or shipped, staff payroll, your photos have been published. So these are all some of the examples they gave. And let's move on to the next one, the content. If impersonating a brand or supplier, it would be pertinent to research their standard email templates and branding and make your current look same as theirs. So the victim doesn't expect anything. So if you are trying to, I mean, if the attacker try to impersonate a brand or a known reputed entity, then they must take some effort to impersonate or imposter the particular brand so that the victim can easily get tricked. So that is the concept behind this. And if impersonating a contact or co-worker, it would be beneficial to contact them first. They may have some branding in their template, have particular email signature. So these are all very small, minute things that you can focus, if, especially you are conducting a phishing campaign. For example, someone might have a name Dorothy. They gave some simple example. You may read through this, you will get to know. And let's move on to the next one. If you have set up a spoof website to harvest data or distribute malware, the links to this should be disguised using the anchor text. and changing it either to some text which says click here. So this is nothing but simply displaying one text to the user. Simply it contains a hyperlink. That hyperlink will be redirecting to somewhere. So that is what they call it as anchor text. So that's the term. So if you see the text here, they written anchor text. If I keep my cursor over here, uh, I hope you can see at the bottom, it is pointing to Wikipedia. So in this case, this particular text is known as anchor text. Okay, let's try to answer these questions. What tactic can be used to find brands or people victims interact with? So they are asking the tactic. Uh, is it nothing but OSINT, open source intelligence? And what should be changed on HTML anchor tag to disguise as a link? So it must be anchor text. So let me try to answer that. Yeah, that's the right answer. Let's move on to the next one. Phishing infrastructure, a very, very important one, especially if you are about to make phishing campaign. Okay. A certain amount of infrastructure will need to put in place to launch successful phishing campaign. Before uh, before started carrying out a phishing campaign, you must establish few infrastructure. I think I'm pronouncing it properly. You must uh, have few prerequisites. You must fulfill those prerequisites to perform the phishing campaigns. So let's see what are all those. Domain name. You need to register your own domain name, and that is very, very important. And SSL TLS certificate. This is not important, but if you have this SSL TLS certificate, then it will make easier. It will make the process of tricking very easy. And the next thing is email server or account. You will need either to set up an email server or register with SMTP email provider. So the next thing is you need to set up your own email server to initiate, to pass the email to other SMTP servers. And the next thing is DNS records. Setting up DNS records such as SPF, DKIM, DMARC will improve the deliverability of your emails. When you set up all these three things, uh, then you may skip or you may make your email uh, to fall in the inbox rather than dropping in the spam box. So this is one of the things that you can use to make sure it is not falling in the spam box. And the next thing is web server. You will need to set up your web servers to purchase a web hosting or domain. However, you can set up your own web server to host your uh, malicious website or to harvest the credentials. And the next thing is analytics. When a phishing campaign is part of a red team engagement, keep note of each and every email that is sent and how many emails opened and how many links been clicked. So you need to note down all these data. And for that, there are some certain frameworks that you may use. So if you use those frameworks, you'll be able to track all those details very easily, and it will be very helpful, specifically when you are performing phishing campaign against an enterprise or some reputed company. So you'll be able to share those whole data to your client. And yeah, this is what the prerequisites. You need all these things before launching a successful phishing campaign. And let's see the next one. They gave the tool, automation and the useful software. The first tool is GoPish. So let's go to that link. GoPish is a web-based framework to make setting up phishing campaigns are more straightforward. GoPish allow you to store SMTP server settings for sending emails and has a web-based tool for creating email templates using a simple what you see is what you get editor. And you can also schedule when emails are sent and have analytics dashboard. It also gives you the analytics dashboard. And another interesting thing about this GoPish tool is this is open source, which means you can download this free of cost. And it is also cross-platform compatible, which means you will be able to run this GoPish on on Windows, Linux, as well as Mac OS. So that is excellent. Another excellent thing here. So here is the link. From here, you'll be able to download the executable, the file that you want to install the GoPish. And once you install the GoPish, you can successfully perform the phishing campaign. Then it becomes straightforward. It will make your work easier. Next thing is social engineering toolkit. Actually, the social engineering toolkits, it is also available in Kali Linux. I guess this is one of the popular tools to carry out the phishing campaign. This is similar to GoPish, and here they gave the overall infrastructure details. So here is the victim. You must have the DNS server and the web server with SSL DLS enabled, and payload web server with SSL DLS, and analytics server, email server. So all these things are required. The GoPish tool, which makes the work easier, it gives you the framework where you will be able to integrate all these configurations inside a single tool, and you can trigger the phishing email from this tool itself. So let's try to answer this. What part of Red Team infrastructure makes the website looks more authentic? And it is nothing but SSL TLS certificates. And what protocol has TXT records that can improve the email deliverability? And that TXT record being used in SPF, Sender Policy Framework. I guess that's the right answer. No, it is not. Actually, it is DNS. Pardon me. They are asking the protocol. So it is DNS protocol which has the TXT records that can improve the email deliverability. So you need to, when you are creating the DNS records, you need to create the TXT record as well. That's what they're trying to say. And what tool can automate a phishing campaign and include analytics? And we have already seen the tool is the Great GoPish. Yeah, that's the answer. And let's try to do some physical exercise, the practical one here. They gave their machine, which is already installed with the GoPish tool. They also gave the URL here. Here I am. And the credential is admin try hack me. Actually, this particular tool already installed in TryHackMe server, so I'm directly opening it. So here is the dashboard. You can see the side headings here: campaigns, users and groups, email templates, landing pages, sending profiles, account settings, user management, webhooks, and apart from that, user guides and the API documentation. So here we are. Let's try to understand this. Sending profiles. First, let's read this sending profile. Sending profiles are the connection details required actually send your phishing emails. This is just simply the SMTP server that you have access to. Click the sending profiles link, left-hand menu, and click the new profile button. Next, add your following information in the screenshot. So it is totally straightforward. Before conducting the phishing campaign, it is mandatory to add your sending profile, because you need to add your SMTP server to distribute your email. That is mandatory. So simply clicking new profile and adding the profile here. So let's give the name. It is local server. Why I am saying local server? Because this particular 10.10.24, that particular host itself listening on port 25 SMTP. So let's verify that. Nmap-p25. And here it is. It is listening on port SMTP. So that's why we are just mentioning it as local server, and the from address, no reply at red team THM. And also mentioning the from address and the host details. This local server listening on port 25. That's what we mentioned here. Yeah, these are the details we need to mention, and we are finally saving the profile. And now we added the SMTP details. I'm moving to the bottom. Landing pages, the next thing. Next, we are going to set up is landing pages. This is the website that phishing email is going to direct the victims to. This page usually spoof of a website of the victim is familiar with. So the landing page is nothing but whenever you are crafting a phishing email, you must be giving a link, right? So when the user click the link, uh, the user must be redirected to some other page, right? So that specific page is uh, landing page, and you need to design that landing page very carefully. You need to gain the trust of the victim through this landing page, so which is very essential. So make sure you are crafting some trustworthy landing page. So here they gave the landing page code as well. Here, this is the code that we need to use. Give the landing page name Acme login, and next HTML box you will need to press the source button and allow the HTML code as shown below. Okay, let me try to create a landing page now. So here is the topic, landing pages. I'm just clicking and creating a new page, and the page name is Acme login. And here the HTML is already chosen. I'm simply clicking source here and copying and pasting the entire HTML source code into this box. Yeah, perfect. Now, I forgot to edit one more thing here. Capture submitted data and capture passwords. Make sure you are enabling these two checkboxes, because our ultimate aim is to capture the credentials of the victim. So make sure that, and I'm saving the page. It is done. So that's what they gave here, enabling those two checkboxes. So I'm scrolling down, and the next thing is email templates. This is the design and content of the email you are going to actually send to the victim. It will need to persuasive. I mean, it needs to be persuasive and contain a link to your landing page, and enables us to capture the victim's username and password. Check the email template link on the left hand menu, then click new template button. Give the template name as email1, subject as new message received. Here is the HTML. Click the HTML tab and again add the link like this. You need to set the actual link like this. Sorry, the link that is displayed to the user, it will appear like this, but the actual link will be set to like this. So this is what they are trying to say here. So let's try to do that. Email templates. And here we are creating a new template name, and the email subject. Let me give the same name, and moving to the HTML and clicking source now. Now let's craft this. Hello, simply clicking hello. You have received an emergency email. Please open, like this. So now I am mentioning the link here. And hope you can see the symbol here. So when I click this, it gives me the display text and also the exact associated URL. I'm clicking other, and I'm going to give the same thing as they gave here. Inside the curly braces, I'm giving .url in the capital letters. So let me give that and clicking OK. Emergency message would be the app word. Looks like an administrator page. So just mention it as message. Yeah, I hope. Yeah, I hope I crafted the email. Just a simple one, and I'm saving the template here. Done. Now your email should look similar to the screenshot below. Yeah, we almost crafted that. And the next thing is users and groups. Here you need to mention the list of recipients, the people against them you are going to test this phishing email, right? So you need to add those details here. So let's see the group name. What might be the group name? Um, Victims. I'm naming them as the victims, and here I'm giving the name. The first name is Martin, and the next name is Brian, and the third name is, it's a team ID, accounts department email. Yeah, now we successfully added all three recipients and grouped them into, uh, grouped them and gave the name as victims. So simply saving the change. Now we already configured users and groups, email template, landing pages, sending profiles. What next? Campaigns. We set all the required things. Now let's set the campaign. Now it is time to send your first emails. Click the campaigns link and left hand menu, new campaign button. So we need to give the following values. So let's try to create the campaign. I'm creating a new campaign, and here the campaign name, I'm just giving the name as campaign 1, and the email template, we already created the template, and landing page, we already created the Acme login page, and the URL. The URL here is, they gave the URL. So I'm just copying and pasting the link here, and I have no idea what sort of URL it is. Let's keep the cursor over this question mark. So it clearly says what is the purpose of this URL. The location of Gopish listener must be reachable by the targets. So when the specific victim try to click the URL that we sent, and they must be able to reach our infrastructure, right? So that's what they mentioned here. So we are giving the URL which is reachable by everyone. So we mentioned that, and what next? The launch date for this lab set 2 days ago, just to make sure there is no complication with different time zones in a real operation. This would be set correctly. So due to some various time zone conflicts, they are recommending to set the previous date. I'm setting 17 here. But in real time, when you are performing, you can schedule this campaign, the time you want. And sending profile, it is local server, and group, it is targets. So let's map that as well. Local server and group is victims. Yeah. Now successfully we all set. Just click launch campaign. This will schedule the campaign to be launched. Are you sure? I'm launching. The campaign scheduled. The campaign has been scheduled for launch. Okay. Now let's see what happened. So here you can see the email sent. Here is the dashboard. So this is what the analytics that they were talking. Uh, yeah, dashboard where you will be able to see all those statistics about your phishing campaign, and the total emails sent 2, and the emails opened 0, clicked link 0, submitted data 0, email reported 0. So beneath each and every email, you can check the entire details, the whole status, timeline of Brian, a specific user, the email sent to this user. And let's see what next here. Results. The results page gives us an idea how phishing campaign is performing by letting us know how many emails have been delivered, opened, and clicked, and how many users have submitted the data to our spoof website. You will need to you will see at the bottom of the screen breakdown for each email address. You will notice this. Okay, we can dig the error more by clicking drop down and next account. So that's what I just now explained. A minute, after a minute, and providing you have followed the instructions correctly, you should see the status of Brian changed to submitted data. They already said this. So here I can see the status changed. Earlier it was 0. Now it is submitted data. Let's see who submitted the data. They already pre-configured this at the backend. So they made the Brian to submit the data. And if I click view details, who, here you can see the juicy details, the username of Brian and the password he is using. seems like a complicated password. So here we are. So this is what a small demonstration of the Gopish tool. And what is the password of Brian? I already copied that, keeping it in my clipboard. So this is the very complicated password. Yeah, we did that. We just gone through an interesting Gopish tool. If you are getting time, you can deploy your own server, maybe on cloud instance, and you can practice this Gopish tool. And make sure you are performing it on your own infrastructure and your own emails. Do not unleash this on any others. Then you will get yourself into deep trouble. So let's see the next topic: droppers. Droppers are nothing but the malware droppers they are trying to refer here. The droppers are not usually malicious themselves, so they tend to pass the antivirus checks. So the duty of the dropper is just to pull the malware. It is not a malware itself. It is trying to pull the malware once it is deployed in the victim system. So that is the role of dropper. That's what they are saying here. Once installed, the intended malware is either unpacked or downloaded from a server and installed onto the victim's computer. Malicious software usually connects back to attacker's infrastructure. The attacker can take control of the victim's computer, which can further explore or exploit the local network. So this is just a definition for the malware dropper. Though droppers tend to be malicious, let's see the hint here. No, it is not malicious itself. Its role is to bring other malwares. So that's the right answer. And let's go to the next task. Choosing a phishing domain. Choosing a right phishing domain to launch your attack is essential to ensure you have psychological edge over your target. A red team engagement can use some below methods to choose perfect domain name. And choosing the domain name is also an art. So you must learn how to choose a tricky domain name to lure your user. uh, you may use the expired domains, the domain that was previously used by some entities, which is not used now. So you can take those domains if possible. And since those domains are legitimate in the past, there might be some history of the for the domain. So it will keep your domain in the trusted list. So that is the main use of using expired domains. And the next one is typo squatting. Typo squatting is when registered domain looks very similar to the target domain. So here are the examples. When you misspell the famous brand name google.com by doing some misspelling and additional period. So these are some of the examples. Switching the numbers for letters and phrasing, additional word. So these are all some of the minute techniques, and this specific technique is called typo squatting. And let's see the next one: TLD alternatives, top level domain, the domain which comes after a dot, the suffix one, and .com, .net, .co.uk, .org, .gov, and each country will have its own top level domain. So it is always another practice of using some weird or different top level domain than the legitimate name. We can use the same domain name. You can simply change the top level domain to lure the victim. They also gave the example here. So let's see the next concept: IDN homograph attack, script spoofing. So it is very interesting one, and also a detailed, the more cumbersome one to identify. Let's see what what it is all about. Originally, domain names were made of Latin characters A to Z, 0 to 9. But in 1998, IDN, Internationalized Domain Name, was implemented to support language-specific script or alphabet from other languages such as Arabic, Chinese, Cyrillic, Hebrew, and more. The issue that arises from IDN implementation is that different letters from different languages can actually appear identical. For example, Unicode character of Cyrillic small letter A looks identical to Unicode character of Latin small letter A used in English. Enable speaking attackers to register domain name that looks almost identical to another. If you see both of these names are totally same from the normal user point of view, but If you see in depth, in one name it used Latin character, and in another name, the letter A is Cyrillic character. So that is the difference. So this is what the minute difference here. So let's try to answer this question. What is better, used and expired or new domain? It is always recommended or best practice to use old domain while conducting a team assessment. What is the term used to describe registering a similar domain name with spelling error? Uh, Typo squatting, I suppose. Yeah, that's the correct answer. Let's move on to the next one. Using MS Office in phishing. We have already seen this in our malware analysis video. Even MS Office documents can carry malwares. So often during that's what they gave in here. That's what they gave here. It can be a Word, Excel, or even PowerPoint document. It can carry macros at the back end. The macros have the ability to talk with the system with the high privilege. So that makes uh, the macro enabled documents more difficult to analyze and also a nightmare to the enterprises. Take, for example, the following scenario. A staff member working for Acme IT support receives an email from human resources with an Excel spreadsheet called staffsalaries.xlsx, intended to go to the boss, but somehow ended up in the staff member's inbox instead. What really happened was that an attacker spoofed the human resources email address and crafted a psychologically tempting email perfectly aimed to tempt staff member into opening the attachment. Once the staff member opened the attachment and enabled the macros, their computer was compromised. They gave a simple scenario how MS Office document can be used to get the initial foothold. What can MS Office documents can contain, which when executed can run computer commands? It is nothing but macros, VBA macros. And let's move to the next one, using browser exploits. Another theory task, another method of gaining control over victim's computer could be through browser exploits. This is when there is a vulnerability against browser itself, which allows the attacker to run the remote commands on victim's computer. If you see the last line, an example of this particular CVEID, which is detected on September 2021, is the high critical remote code execution vulnerability found in Microsoft systems that allowed the execution of code just from visiting the website. So it was a critical vulnerability by that time, and people and the enterprises and the software developers were rushing to, or sysadmins were rushing to patch this vulnerability. So that's why they mentioned this here. Which CVE caused the remote code execution? So here they give the answer is quite straightforward. And let's try to do some final practice here. Phishing practical. So here they gave a sample site and also the sample email they gave. Our duty is to review this email and give our opinion whether it is phishing or benign email. So let's do that. Uh, Google support at google.com. Email ID looks legit, and also the to address, it is pointing to try hack me user, and the password reset required subject. Okay, now let's see the mail content. It has come to our attention that your account may have been may have been accessed by the third party. Please log in and change your password here. So here they gave a link, but you are not sure where it is heading to. To detect that, if you keep the cursor on this specific URL, at the bottom you can see the exact URL it is pointing to. Uh, the mail sender domain is google.com, but if you see the URL at the bottom, it is googlesupport.com. There are some conflicts. So it looks to be suspicious. So I'm just giving the verdict as phishing email. That's the right answer. And show issues. The link actually goes to a different website than advertised. That's what they are also saying. Okay, let's see the next email. Accounts team, accounts at the bankingroup.thn. Okay, it's a finance report, and Please download the latest finance report by clicking here. If I keep the cursor on this link, it is showing the link as bankinggroup.sharehosting.thm. Again, the conflict in the domain name and also the spelling mistake in the domain name. If you see the from address, they they simply added 1G, but here they added 2G here. So the spelling mistake and also the domain name is totally conflicting. So it's again a phishing email showing the issues, misspelling in the domain name they gave. Perfect. Let me move to the next one. A mail from TryHackMe. No reply at tryhackmesupport.thm. All right. And hello, we haven't seen you for a while. Click here to keep on hacking. So I'm just keeping cursor on this. Click here. I can see it is legitimate TryHackMe URL. And the email looks safe. That's the correct answer, of course. And let's see the next one. Test. The name is test, but the email ID is different. Accounts at acmesupport.thm. And the mail subject is private report. Hello, I have attached the report you asked for. Please don't show this to anyone. Uh, they added a suspicious document. There is no hyperlink here. However, if you receive such suspicious document from some unknown resource, then it is always a best practice to ignore or put the specific email to further investigation. So I'm just marking it as phishing email. Fortunately, that's the right answer. And showing the issues, don't trust the PDF attachments that are not from the trusted source. The same thing that I stated just before. Okay, the challenge completed. Well done, you completed the challenge. And here is the flag. We successfully accomplished this particular phishing room. So let me put this here. With this, we successfully accomplished this room. Yes, this is what I had to share. We have discussed, we have seen some excellent open source tools that will be helping us while conducting the phishing campaigns, and I'll be recording those URLs in the description. You can refer those. I hope you really enjoyed this. If you really did, hit the like button and consider subscribing my channel. You can share this video among your friends, and if you have any opinion, put it in the comment section. I'll be reading those and responding to your queries. I'll catch you next time with another excellent video. Until then, signing off. Love you guys.